I shoved my key in the lock. It didn't turn. I tried again, slower this time. Nothing. I knocked. Harder than I meant to. The door cracked open an inch, then stopped. Mercedes filled the gap. You weren't supposed to come back yet. I blinked. It's my house. She opened the door wider. You should have called. We weren't ready. Inside, the air smelled different. Perfumed. Fried. The hallway rug was gone. My rug. Gone. 2 people were on my couch. An older man had his bare feet on the coffee table flipping channels with my remote. A woman beside him was eating something from one of my bowls, my favorite green one. Who are they? I asked. Mercedes didn't answer, just stepped aside. I walked in. My chest thumped. The stitches pulled under my blouse. I steadied myself on the wall. Raphael sat at the dining table scrolling his phone. He didn't stand. Didn't smile. Hi, Mom, he said without looking. I stared at him. He finally glanced up. You're early. They said a week more. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. The man on the couch turned toward me. You must be Nadine, he said, then went back to the TV. My TV. The woman gave me a tight smile. We've just settled in. I looked at Mercedes. What does that mean? She crossed her arms. My parents needed a place. You were in the hospital. It made sense. They're living here for now. I wasn't asked. You were recovering. I turned to Raphael. You agreed to this. He shrugged. It's not a big deal. My legs went soft. I sat down slowly at the edge of the armchair. Not mine. Some new piece of furniture I'd never seen before. Pale, cheap fabric, already stained. I reached for my cardigan. It wasn't there. I left it in the car. Your room's been turned into an office, Mercedes added. But we cleared out the guest room for you. It's got everything you need. I stood again. Slow. She led me down the hall. The walls were bare. All the photos were gone. My wedding portrait. The frame with Raphael's second-grade drawing, replaced by floating shelves and fake succulents. The guest room door creaked open. 2 suitcases blocked the closet. One had a tag S, Alvarez, her father. A twin bed sat against the far wall. No headboard. Thin blanket. I'll get you some water, Mercedes said. I nodded. She left. I sat on the edge of the bed. My back ached. My chest tightened. On the dresser, someone had left a lavender-scented candle. I hated lavender. It gave me headaches. I lay down fully dressed. Closed my eyes. From the hall, I heard laughter. The clink of wine glasses. The sound of my own ice machine. And Raphael's voice low and casual. She's fine. Don't worry about her. I stared at the ceiling until the light outside dimmed. No one brought me dinner. No one checked on me. Later that night, I stood in the dark, barefoot, and opened the hallway closet. Buried under some shoes and an old blanket, I found a single photo frame. They missed me and Ed in the garden, shovels in hand, tomato vines behind us. I held it to my chest. My heart thudded. Not from surgery. From something colder. The next morning I would find what else they hadn't touched. I opened the fridge. It didn't budge. A chain lock ran through the handles. A silver padlock clicked in place. I stepped back. Mercedes appeared behind me in the kitchen. Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention we lock it at night. My hands curled at my sides. Why? She opened a cupboard and took down a protein bar. Just until everyone adjusts. Dad snacks a lot after dinner. We're budgeting. I wasn't told. She handed me the bar. You can keep some snacks in your room. My sewing room, now stripped of thread bins and my vintage machine. Raphael had built that work table for me. One winter now it was gone. Probably in storage or sold. I walked back slowly. The hallway was lit with night lights, little sensor bulbs like in nursing homes. The guest room door was open. Still the same bed. Still the candle I didn't touch. A folded towel lay on the pillow like I was some visitor at a B&B. I sat on the bed. My back hurt. I hadn't eaten real food since yesterday's hospital tray. Raphael knocked once and stepped in. "You okay? I'm fine." He stood awkwardly. "Mercedes's parents, just be patient. They're trying. I didn't know they moved in. You were in recovery." It felt easier. For who he looked down, picked at a loose thread on his sleeve. "It's temporary. Did you change the locks?" He hesitated. "Yeah. Just while you were gone. You could have told me. You weren't supposed to come back this soon." "I had surgery, Raphael. Not memory loss." He flinched. I stood. The pain pinched, but I didn't show it. "I'll need the fridge during the day. For my medication." "Of course. Just ask Mercedes." "Ask?" I nodded. "Got it." He smiled, like that solved something. "Okay. Rest up, Mom." He left. I sat down again, peeled open the bar. It tasted like cardboard. I forced it down with water from the bathroom sink. Later, I walked out to the living room. Mercedes's parents were watching a game show volume up. My recliner was gone. My Afghan wasn't on the couch. I checked the cabinet where I used to keep Ed's mugs. Empty. Mercedes looked up. "Can I help you?" "No." She smiled, polite. "We just rearranged a few things. More functional." I nodded. I walked into the garage. Boxes stacked high. Labeled in her handwriting, "Old kitchenware. Me-esque." Photos. Sewing junk. Junk. I opened one. A framed cross-stitch I made the year Raphael graduated. I closed it quickly. Upstairs, I passed their room, my old bedroom. The door was half open. Mercedes's robe hung on the door hook. A photo of her parents sat on my nightstand. I turned away. Back in the guest room, I lay down again. The walls were bare. They had painted over the green. Ed hated beige. I pressed my hand to the mattress. I remembered the call he made from this room the day he found out he was sick. This used to be where we stored extra linens, old gifts, memories. Now I slept here. Like a guest. I didn't cry. I couldn't afford to. At midnight, I woke to use the bathroom. On the way back, I saw the garage light still on. I opened the door, and I saw something tucked behind the paint cans. I pulled the folder out from behind the paint cans. Red, thick. Ed's handwriting on the front. Use if necessary. I didn't open it. Not yet. I slipped it under my sweater, walked back in and slid it under the mattress. The next morning, Mercedes knocked. "Breakfast's ready." Toast. 1 egg. Her parents had already eaten. Raphael poured coffee, my coffee, from the tin Ed always used. I sat quietly. She talked about redecorating. He nodded like it had nothing to do with me. That evening, we had dinner. Mercedes made some kind of stew, salty and thin. The table filled quickly, her parents, Raphael, and 2 of her cousins who'd dropped by uninvited. 1 chair short. I stood with my bowl waiting. Mercedes didn't notice. I stepped toward the cabinet to grab another plate. Only paper ones were left. She took one and handed it to me. "Here, Nadine. Just for tonight." I held it. Light. Flimsy. She nodded toward the kitchen counter. "Might be easier to eat there." I walked over. Propped the bowl on the edge. No placemat. No seat. Raphael looked over. "It's no big deal, Mom." I said nothing. She added, "You're easygoing." "You understand." I chewed slowly. My jaw ached. The counter felt cold against my arm. My knees locked. Their laughter bounced off the walls. I couldn't hear what they were saying. Halfway through the meal, the paper plate bent. The stew sloshed onto the counter. I wiped it with a napkin, then tossed the plate in the trash. No one looked up. Later, Mercedes cornered me in the hallway. "We're hosting game night tomorrow. Just a heads up. I don't play." It's okay. You can stay in your room. Just letting you know, parking might be tight. She walked away humming. I went to the garage, opened the box again, took out a small metal box Ed used to keep warranty papers in. The key was still taped to the bottom. Inside, receipts, an old notary stamp, 2 letters he'd written before surgery. I read the first one. It was addressed to me. Simple words. Direct. Instructions. If Raphael ever loses his way, if they ever make you feel small, you don't have to ask. Just act. My hand shook. I folded the letter, slipped it in my pocket. That night I heard footsteps outside my door. Voices. Whispering. Something about the mortgage. About paperwork. About timing. The fridge door opened. Someone laughed. I closed my eyes and waited for morning. At dawn, I made coffee before anyone woke. Sat alone at the counter. My cup, my chair, the silence. At the bottom of the stairwell, I heard Mercedes say, "She's up early, again." Raphael replied, "Just let her. She's not going to do anything." I took another sip. The cup warmed my hands. My eyes stayed on the hallway. They were right, I wasn't going to do anything. Not yet. I opened my bank app. I hadn't touched that joint account in months. The balance was off. I checked the transaction list. 12,000. Labeled roofing project, A&M Construction. I stared. That was Ed's old reserve fund. The one we opened when Raphael started college. Just in case. I scrolled again. Another payment, 300 for landscaping, then 200 for plumbing. All within 2 weeks. I walked into the living room. Raphael was on the couch, feet up, scrolling. "Did you use our joint account?" He didn't even look up. "Yeah, for the roof." I stood still. "What roof?" He nodded toward the kitchen window. "Mercedes's parents' place. Their old place was falling apart. This is just temporary, Mom. I'll replenish it." "You didn't ask." He finally looked at me. "You don't even use that money. It's just sitting there." "It's not yours." His mouth tightened. "It's our account." I walked into the kitchen. Mercedes stood at the sink, drying glasses. "You knew I asked." She turned. "Of course, I coordinated it. Your name's on the account, but you weren't responsive. It was just paperwork." "You think that's just paperwork?" She raised her hands. "It's done now. We're a family. Sometimes families help each other. No one helped me sign anything." She laughed lightly. "You really want to play that card, Nadine?" I stepped back. She added, "Don't worry. We're handling things now." Raphael came in behind me. "Let it go, Mom." I left the room. In the garage, I opened the red folder again. Ed's handwriting. Deed copies. Bank account information. Old trust fund notes. One page in particular caught my eye. A small amendment from 4 years ago. It shifted full control of our joint account to me upon Ed's death. Raphael's name was only there as an emergency contact. Not a co-owner. I took a photo of it, saved it twice, printed a copy, slid it into the freezer under the peas. That evening, Mercedes passed by my door with a bag of groceries. "We're having guests tomorrow. Hope you're okay with that." "I live here," I said. She paused. "You rest a lot. I didn't think you'd mind." I shut the door. The next morning, I called the bank from the backyard, gave them the date of the amendment. The rep went quiet for a moment. "Ma'am, thank you for that. We'll freeze the account immediately until we verify." She asked if I wanted to schedule an in-person review. "Yes," I said, quietly. After I hung up, I went back inside. Mercedes and Raphael were eating. He held his phone, smiling. She glanced at me. "Coffee's almost out. I made my own." I walked past them, picked up a pen from the drawer, and wrote down the bank's address. I folded the paper and slid it into the red folder. As I did, I heard Raphael say behind me, She's just being difficult. She'll come around. I didn't turn around. I just closed the drawer. Tomorrow, I'd go see what else they touched. I yanked open the storage bin in the hallway closet. Dust rose. My hands dug through scarves, gloves, broken hangers. The winter coat was buried under everything. I pulled it out. Something slid behind it. Flat. Firm. Red. I froze. I pulled it free. The folder. Ed's folder. Not the one I'd hidden. This one had dust on it. A second copy. Maybe forgotten. I opened it on the bed. Inside deed copies to the house. 3 versions. The latest one notarized, stamped 3 months before his last hospital stay. Owner Nadine Estes. Solely. Raphael's name wasn't on it. Never had been. My hands shook. I kept going. Tax forms, bank ledgers, a typed amendment. Notarized. It stated, in the event of my death, full financial control and residential rights transfer to my wife, Nadine Estes. No dependent, including adult children, shall assume control without legal process. Dated. Stamped. Witnessed. It was signed. His handwriting. And mine. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. He'd known. He saw it coming. I read it again slowly this time. It was all there. Every protection, quietly put in place. He hadn't told Raphael. Hadn't told Mercedes. He trusted me to hold the line. I slid the amendment into a sleeve, folded it carefully. The folder went under the mattress. The copy from the garage stayed in the red tin in the freezer. Then I opened my nightstand drawer. Took out the envelope I'd labeled medications weeks ago. Emptied it. Slid the amendment inside. Added the old deed copy. Closed it. Put it back like nothing had changed, because nothing had. Not for them. They still thought I was drifting. Weak. Foggy. They didn't know I had the house, the accounts, the power, not yet. That afternoon, Mercedes asked me to pick up dry cleaning. I said I wasn't feeling well. She didn't push. Raphael spent the day in his office, my old reading room. I heard him pacing, talking low. Something about refinancing. I made coffee. The good stuff. The kind Ed liked. I sipped it slowly. My mug said, "Home is where the heart is." I almost laughed. Outside, the wind picked up. Leaves scattered across the porch. I locked the front door behind me, then double-checked the back. That night, I moved the guest room lamp closer to the bed. I read Ed's letter again. He never said fight. He said act. Tomorrow, I'd call the lawyer. The one Ed used. The number was still in my wallet. Same spot it had always been. I turned off the light and listened to the silence. Not empty, not weak, just waiting. I set the table. Mercedes handed me the cutlery like I was the maid. 12 settings, she said, then turned to the hallway, yelling, "They just pulled in." I placed each fork, each knife, each plate steady as stone. They came in loud. Perfume, laughter, cold air. Coats dropped on the living room chair, my chair. Her cousin's uncle's some friend named Marta. I barely kept track. Dinner was baked pasta, garlic bread, salad tossed in the plastic bowl I used for Ed's garden tomatoes. No one thanked me for setting the table. We sat. Except there weren't enough chairs again. I stood near the end about to excuse myself. Mercedes patted the piano bench. Here, Nadine. Just for tonight. I sat. No back support. Cramped between a fake ficus and the buffet cabinet. Wine poured. Jokes flew. Someone started a story about Florida. Someone else jumped in about their new car. Then Marta raised her glass. To Nadine, she said, smiling wide, "It's generous of her to let y'all stay here." I kept chewing. Mercedes leaned in, laughing. Oh no, we're taking care of her now. This is all part of our plan. We've got her. Everyone laughed. Raphael didn't even blink. I swallowed hard. The wine turned sour in my mouth. She's easygoing, Mercedes added. Doesn't need much. Just a quiet room and warm meals. Like a cat, really. I smiled. Didn't say a word. They kept laughing. I kept folding that smile tighter. After dinner, they played cards. I cleared the dishes. In the kitchen, Mercedes's father handed me his plate. Thank you, sweetheart, he said, wiping his mouth with a napkin and leaving it on the counter. I didn't reply. I rinsed everything, dried every fork, put them back in the drawer. Quiet, unbothered. In my head, I was counting. Copies, keys, timing, names. The folder, the call, the clause Ed wrote at the bottom of the amendment, full discretionary authority. No third-party override. I dried my hands. Took one last look at the table, still covered in wine rings and crumbs. Raphael passed behind me and kissed my cheek. We're lucky to have you, he said. I nodded. I went to my room. The folder was still there. I opened it. Slid in the napkin Mercedes's dad left on the counter, oily, careless, stained with red sauce. Tomorrow, I'd call Howard Greer, Ed's lawyer. His number was still written in Ed's notebook in the garage, tucked in the manual for the lawnmower. The dinner was over, but the performance was just beginning. I caught Raphael alone the next morning. He stood by the sink, rubbing his forehead, staring into a cup of cold coffee like it held answers. I closed the fridge unlocked only because Mercedes hadn't woken up yet. We need to talk. He tensed. About what? You used my account. You changed the locks. You moved people in. I want the truth. He exhaled, shoulders slumping. Mom, it wasn't supposed to be like this. Then what was it supposed to be? He leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. Her parents expected a house. I blinked. Expected? They've had a rough few years, he said quickly. Lost their place. Savings dried up. They were counting on us. Counting on you, I corrected. He winced. Look, you were in the hospital. We didn't know when you'd be home. They needed help, and we needed to prove we could step up. It just made sense. There it was. The truth wasn't cruel. It was careless. You didn't ask me, I said. You were recovering. I could still pick up a phone. He pushed his palms against the counter. It's not permanent. I stared at him. The boy I raised knew better. The man in front of me looked like he'd traded that boy for approval from people who barely knew him. Footsteps on the stairs. Mercedes entered, tying her robe. What's going on? I didn't turn. Raphael answered her. We're just talking. She walked straight to him. Did you tell her? He hesitated. Tell her what, that we'd fix the paperwork, she said sharply. You promised we'd straighten it all out before the refinance appointment. I faced her then. What paperwork? She didn't blink. The house paperwork. It's not your house, I said. She smiled without warmth. That's what we're fixing. Raphael flinched. Mercedes. No, she should hear it, she insisted. Your name is on everything, Nadine. We're just trying to adjust things so the family can function. You're retired. It shouldn't all fall on you. And who does it fall to? She looked directly into my eyes. Us. I let the silence stretch until the air felt heavy. Raphael shifted voice low. Mom, please don't make this harder. We're trying to help everyone. This situation is complicated. It's not complicated, Mercedes said briskly. She signs, we update, everyone moves forward. Simple. I watched them stand there, her steady, certain, rehearsed. Him nervous, torn, but still rooted beside her. Pressure, yes, but also choice. He chose her comfort over my ownership. I stepped back. I'm going to take a walk. Raphael frowned. You shouldn't be out alone yet. I'll manage. Mercedes shrugged. Just be back before the inspector arrives. Inspector. For the refinance, she said, as if I should have known. I nodded once and left through the back door, closing it gently behind me. Outside, the air cut sharp against my lungs. I walked slow, steady past the fence Ed built, past the mailbox, with our last name still printed on the side, past the row of hedges we planted the year Raphael started middle school. Every step tightened something inside me, pulled it taut. Not rage, recognition. This wasn't a plot rooted in hatred. It wasn't even personal. It was convenience, ease. A solution they crafted without me because including me would have required respect. I reached the corner, turned back toward the house, and kept walking, knowing I wouldn't return empty-handed. There were calls to make. I marched down the block before my body could argue. The stitches pulled. My breath thinned. I kept going. Len's porch light flicked on as I stepped onto his walkway. He opened the door before I even knocked. "You're out early," he said. "You look pale. Come in." I stepped inside. His place smelled like old books and brewed coffee. It steadied me more than the walk had. "I need to ask you something," I said. He gestured to the kitchen table. "Sit." I sat. He poured coffee into a heavy mug and pushed it toward me. "Start from the top." I didn't dramatize anything. I didn't embellish. I laid it out flat. The locks changed, the people moved in the account, drained the talk of fixing paperwork. Len didn't interrupt. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and rubbed his jaw. "You never refinanced after Ed passed," he said. "I checked the county database last month when I helped Helen sell her place. Your deed's untouched, clean. Your name alone." My fingers tightened around the mug. "Mercedes says there's paperwork they need to adjust." Len snorted. "They can't touch a thing without your signature." He paused. "Unless they try to prove incapacity." I didn't look away. He studied me for a long moment. "They're acting like you already handed everything over. But you never did." "No." "Then you need counsel, and you need it now." He walked to a drawer and returned with a folded sheet of paper. "A name, a number. This is a lawyer I trust. Not the flashy kind. Quiet. Precise. Good with estate messes." I let the paper rest under my palm. "I don't want this blowing up yet." "It won't," he said. "He knows how to move without stirring dust." I nodded. "You have documents?" he asked. I tapped the tote bag by my chair. Canvas. Plain. Inside, the red folder lay beneath a sweater zipped tight. "Good," Len said. "Bring those. Originals if you can." I didn't tell him there were 2 copies. One under my mattress. One in the freezer. Some things didn't need to be spoken aloud. He walked me to the door. Before I stepped out, he stopped me. "Nadine, if Ed put protections in place, use them. He didn't do that for nothing." I didn't trust my voice, so I didn't answer. I walked home slower. My front yard looked different somehow. Same grass, same walkway, same trimmed hedges. But it didn't feel like mine while I crossed it. Not yet. Inside, voices echoed from the living room. Mercedes's parents were arguing about thermostat settings. Raphael was upstairs on a call. I slipped quietly through the hallway to my room. I sat on the bed and pulled out the red folder. Spread the pages across the blanket. Deeds, amendments, account ledgers, the notarized clause Ed added at the end. He had left everything in order. He trusted me to understand it when the time came. I slid everything back in place just as footsteps approached. I tucked the tote bag under the bed and stood. Mercedes appeared in the doorway. "Oh, you're back. Just stepped out for a minute." She crossed her arms. "Next time, let us know. You had Raphael worried." I didn't correct her. She lingered, scanning the room, like she expected something out of place. Then she left without another word. I closed the door. Tomorrow I would call the lawyer. I opened my laptop to check the bank appointment confirmation. The page blinked once, then sent me straight to a login screen I didn't recognize. I typed my password. Incorrect. I tried another. Incorrect. A red banner flashed across the top account, locked due to multiple failed attempts. My chest tightened. I clicked the reset link. It said a recovery code had been sent to a new primary email. Not mine. I closed the laptop and reached for the phone. The bank's hold music hummed before a voice answered. "This is Carla. How can I assist?" "My account was altered," I said. I did not change my email. Papers shuffled on her end. "I see a request submitted yesterday. Address change, email change, recovery phone update." It was flagged and paused pending verification. "Who requested it?" "A woman named Mercedes Feller. She said she was managing your affairs." My throat went dry. "I didn't authorize her." "Freeze everything." "It already is," Carla said. "We saw inconsistencies in the trust account documentation, so nothing went through. We plan to call you this morning." I exhaled, slow, steady. "Thank you. Will require in-person verification from you only. No one else can act for you, I understand. Do you want the attempted changes recorded?" "Yes," I said. "All of them." I hung up and sat there for a long moment, phone still in my hand. The silence heavy but clean. They were moving faster now. They thought I was still drifting in confusion, lying in that guest room not paying attention. They hadn't noticed the folder missing. They hadn't noticed the freezer. They hadn't noticed the calls. Only their own reflection. I stood and walked into the hall. Mercedes was at the dining table sorting mail into piles, hers or Raphael's a thick stack labeled household. "None for me." She didn't look up. "Did you need something?" "No." She slid a stack aside. "We have a lot going on today. If you plan to run errands, let us know. Raphael worries if you disappear." "Disappear." The words scraped. I walked into the kitchen to pour coffee. The pot was half full. Warm enough. I filled my cup. Behind me, she called out, "Oh, by the way, if the bank calls, send them to Raphael." "It's easier." I didn't turn around. They already called. A pause. Soft, sharp. What did they say? That they'll handle everything directly with me. I walked past her before she could shape a reply. She followed me into the living room. "It's not a big deal, Nadine. We were just trying to update some things." "Simplify." "For who?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Raphael came down the stairs adjusting his shirt. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Mercedes said too quickly. "We're fine." He looked at me, waiting for me to disagree. I didn't. He shrugged and grabbed his keys. "Inspector may come by later. Just be around." He walked out. Mercedes followed him to the door. They murmured something low shadows of a conversation they didn't want me catching. I went back to my room and pulled out the tote bag, opened the red folder, checked the amendment again, the signatures, the dates. The notary stamp clean and dark as if pressed yesterday. I set it down, reached for a second envelope I'd prepared the night before, and slipped inside the printed bank log Carla emailed to me while we spoke, documenting Mercedes's attempt, her name, her timestamp. I sealed the envelope. Outside, a car engine turned over, doors slammed, voices trailed off. The house fell quiet. I tucked the envelope with the others and placed the folder back under the bed, knowing tomorrow would require another step. I pushed open the door to the lawyer's office, the bell giving a soft metallic ring. The room smelled like old carpet and coffee that had been reheated too many times. The space was small private, exactly what I needed. Howard Greer stood when he saw me. Older than I remembered. Hair thinner, glasses thicker. But his eyes were the same steady sharp, already reading me before I said a word. "Nadine," he said quietly. "Sit." I lowered myself into the chair. He didn't ask how I'd been. He didn't comment on the weight I'd lost or the paleness in my face. He simply closed the door. "You brought the documents," he asked. I slid the tote bag onto the table and removed the red folder. His jaw tightened the moment he saw it. You found it. I did. He opened the folder, leafing through each page, slowly, carefully. The old deed. The ledger. The amendment Ed and I signed that last spring. He paused at the notarized sheet, tucked near the back. This one, he said, tapping it. This is why I asked you to come in. I frowned. I only skimmed that page. He turned it so it faced me, smoothing the edges with his fingertips. Your husband left this with explicit instructions. He told me not to reveal it unless you came to me first by your own choice. What is it? A protection clause, he said, his final safeguard. My mouth felt dry. Explain. He slid the paper closer. The text was short, barely 4 paragraphs. The signature block carried Ed's handwriting firm and clear. In the event, Howard read aloud that any family member humiliates, exploits, or jeopardizes Nadine Estes publicly or privately, their inheritance rights shall be voided in full. All property and assets, present or future, shall remain solely with Nadine. I stared at the words. They swam for a moment before sharpening again. He wrote this, I whispered. He asked me to notarize it, Howard said. He was concerned. Not about you, about pressure that might fall on you someday. He wanted to be sure you had authority if someone, his exact words, forgot who she is. I looked away. The room felt smaller, warmer. Howard reached into a drawer and pulled out a thin file. There's more. He consolidated accounts, moved certain investments, increased insurance policies. The total estate is larger than you likely assumed. I blinked. How much larger? A significant amount, he said. Enough that your son and his wife would take great interest in controlling it. I closed my eyes. Raphael's voice at the dinner table echoed back. It's temporary. Mercedes's hand on his arm. Their whispers about refinancing. Paperwork. Authority. He knew I murmured. He saw all of this coming. Howard didn't answer. He didn't need to. I opened my eyes. What do I do now? That depends, he said, leaning back. Do you want them removed from the house immediately? Or do you want to let this play out until you decide it's necessary? The question hung between us. I pictured the changed locks, the paper plate. My sewing room turned into an office. My fridge padlocked. My money spent on a roof I'd never see. But I also pictured Raphael as a boy sitting on the floor with Legos building crooked houses and asking if they looked real. I'm not ready to pull everything I said. Not yet. Howard nodded once. Then we act quietly. I'll prepare the documents. Keep your originals. Don't confront them. Let them believe the ground is still steady. I stood. My legs trembled, but not from weakness. He handed me a sealed envelope. This is your certified copy. Guard it. I will. As I walked out, the sun hit my face bright, unfiltered, almost too much. I clutched the tote bag against my side. I wasn't done. I wasn't even started. And tomorrow I would return to the house with something they didn't know existed. I dialed the first number before I even took off my coat. Wendell, it's Nadine. A pause, then his voice broke through, gravelly steady. Nadine Estes. Well, now, there's a voice I haven't heard in a while. I need to ask you a favor, quietly. Go ahead. Ed had you listed as a witness to one of our updates, a clause about forfeiture. Do you remember it? I do, he said without hesitation. He said it was a just in case, said he trusted you to know when it mattered. It matters now, I'll be there. Just say when. I thanked him and hung up. Next number. 1 ring, 2, then a click. Mrs. Estes, the voice said. This is Rebecca. I wondered when I might hear from you. She'd notarized Ed's final amendment. Her name was at the bottom of the clause, written in small, upright letters. She'd been new then, fresh out of school, nervous, but sharp. I need confirmation, I said. Your signature, presence, all of it. I remember it. I still have the stamp and the records. I'll send over a digital copy for your file. Would you speak to a lawyer if needed? No hesitation, she said. By noon, I had 2 confirmations, both willing to testify. I sat in my room coat, still on laptop, open hand on the mouse. I updated my will. I removed Raphael. Not out of spite, out of truth. I wrote everything down when he accessed my account, what he said at the sink, what Mercedes admitted in the hallway. Dates, names, banks, calls. I attached photos. I inserted scanned pages of Ed's clause. I printed 5 sets, placed them in labeled folders. 1 for Howard, 1 for Len. 1 in the red folder, 1 in a sealed envelope marked for court use only. 1 more I slid into the lining of my old coat pocket. I walked to the bank just before closing. The clerk recognized me. Mrs. Estes, it's been a while. I need a safe deposit box. She scanned my ID. We have one available. She walked me back, showed me the box, handed me the key. Inside, I placed the folder, my updated will and the original notarized clause. I locked it, slid the key into my wallet, and said nothing. On the way home, I stopped by the photo center and printed every family photo still saved on my phone, the real ones. Raphael and Ed fishing. Me at Raphael's graduation. Raphael holding my hand the day we buried Ed. The last Thanksgiving before Mercedes took over everything. I printed them in matte, not glossy. Real, flat, unedited. At home, I laid the photos out across my bed and went through each one. I marked the ones that mattered. I marked the ones that hurt. Then I gathered the pile and sealed it in a manila envelope. Not for them. For me. If they asked me what changed, I'd show them nothing. But I'd know the date. I'd know the moment. It wasn't one betrayal. It was erosion. Bit by bit, piece by piece, until nothing that belonged to me felt mine anymore. Except this folder, this clause, this plan. I returned everything to the red folder, zipped the tote bag closed, and stood at the window. Downstairs, Mercedes laughed at something on her phone. Raphael opened a soda. Someone turned on the TV. They didn't feel the ground shifting yet. But it was moving. And I knew where the cracks would open next. Mercedes dropped the folder on the table. Hard. Can you sign this today? I didn't blink. What is it, power of attorney, she said, like it was a grocery list. Just for practical things. Utilities, some of the house maintenance. The bank asked us to have it in place. Raphael stood behind her, arms crossed. Silent. I looked at the papers. My name. Her name. Several blank lines. Did Howard draft this? I asked. No, this is just a template. I found it online, she said quickly. But it's legal. We just need you to sign so we can get things moving. Raphael added. We'll get it notarized after. I nodded slowly. Let me think about it. Mercedes opened her mouth to argue, but closed it again. Fine, she said, brushing crumbs off the table. We'll check in tomorrow. They left the folder there like a trap, already baited. I made coffee. Poured 1 cup. Took it to my room. I read every word of the form. It was sloppy. No attorney would have sent this through. Half the boxes were pre-checked in Mercedes's handwriting. She'd circled durable in blue ink. Permanent. The kind of control you don't give back. I placed the folder under a stack of sewing magazines and went to work. That night, while they watched TV, I took an envelope from my tote bag. Plain white, sealed tight. I drew a red dot in the corner with a marker I kept in my drawer. No name. No label. Inside, I placed 1 copy of Ed's amendment, a certified bank log with the failed access attempt, a copy of my will updated and signed, a letter handwritten in ink addressed to whom it may concern, dated and initialed on every page. I wrote the truth in it. Not flowery, not bitter. Just what happened. The The fridge door squeaked when I opened it. I waited. No footsteps. I pulled the freezer drawer, slid the envelope under a bag of frozen peas, tucked it deep. In case they ever tore through my room, that envelope would outlast them all. The freezer always ran loud. No one liked opening it. I shut the drawer slow, turned, walked back out. Mercedes was still scrolling through her phone on the couch. Raphael had already gone to bed, not a glance in my direction. I passed behind her. She didn't look up. In my room, I sat on the bed and pulled out the power of attorney form. I flipped it over and wrote in thick black ink, "Declined. Do not submit." I placed it in the red folder with the rest. Tomorrow I'd return it. Calm, smiling. Let her think I was bending. Let her believe I'd forgotten how pens work. But when the time came, and it would come, I wouldn't need their signatures. Just mine. Mercedes clinked her spoon against a champagne glass. "Let's take a moment," she said, smiling as she stood, "to this home, to what it means." Everyone fell silent. Her parents, her cousins. Raphael seated beside her, his hand resting on the table like he already owned it. Mercedes turned toward me with a gleam in her eye. "We're honored to carry this legacy forward. Nadine trusts us fully." Chairs shifted. Her mother dabbed her eyes. Someone murmured, "So generous of her." I lifted my coffee cup. "Of course," I said, steady. No one noticed how tightly I gripped the handle. Brunch continued. Toast, eggs, fruit. Mercedes kept talking about future upgrades, landscaping ideas, maybe even converting the garage into a guest suite. Her father offered to help. Raphael nodded along. No one asked what I thought. I wasn't supposed to have thoughts. Just a smile. After the plates were cleared, Mercedes pulled Raphael into the hallway. I stayed at the table pretending not to hear, even as her voice pushed through the thin walls. "She didn't say no," Mercedes whispered. "She didn't say yes either," Raphael said. "She won't. She's tired. This is the best thing for everyone. We'll handle it from here." Handle. Like I was a package, a leftover. I stood, walked to the sink, rinsed my cup slowly. Let the water run longer than needed. When I turned, Mercedes had already rejoined her guests, arms wide, laughing. Raphael stood by the stairs watching me. He smiled. That same nervous smile he used to give me when he broke a vase or flunked a quiz. The smile that said, "Don't be mad, Mom. It's not that serious." But it was. That afternoon I went for a walk. No one asked where I was going. I didn't offer it. I took the long path around the neighborhood, stopping once by the fence where Ed used to hang the lights each winter. I stayed until the sun dropped low. When I returned, the house was quiet. Mercedes and Raphael had gone out for dinner. Her parents were watching something loud in the living room. I made a sandwich, ate it at the counter, the same counter where I'd once taught Raphael how to write his name. "We'll handle it from here," she'd said. I cleaned my plate, wiped the crumbs, rinsed the sink again, slower this time. Upstairs, I checked the freezer. The envelope was still there. I touched the red dot. I opened my closet, pulled the coat from the back, felt the lining. The key was still sewn in. I sat on the edge of the bed folder on my lap, one hand resting on it like it might vanish if I let go. They thought I was done. They thought this house was theirs. I let them think it. Because the best lies, the ones that make people trip, are the ones you let them tell first. Mercedes dropped the folder onto the kitchen table, again. This one was heavier, thicker, glossy cover, blue tab. "Property adjustment," it said in big, bold letters. I wiped my hands on a towel. I'd been cleaning the stovetop. The smell of vinegar still clung to the air. She smiled like a realtor about to close. Just a formality. This would transfer ownership officially into the new LLC we set up. I said nothing. Raphael stood behind her, arms folded, head tilted slightly down like he didn't want to be here, didn't want to watch. She went on. It's still your house. We're just updating how it's held, structuring it smarter, for tax reasons. I pulled out a chair, sat down. Let the folder stay shut. What's an LLC? I asked, voice steady. She lit up. It's a limited liability company. Don't worry, we've handled everything. We'll add you as a partial member. Partial, I echoed. Of course, for now. And the mortgage will technically go through it, but you won't feel a thing. It's just back-end stuff. There's no mortgage, I said quietly. Her smile froze. Right, but eventually when we refinance, it'll help. I looked at Raphael. He looked at the floor. Do you want me to read it now? I asked. No rush, she said, too fast. Take your time. I don't know much about legalese, I added. That's okay. We simplified it. I ran a hand over the folder's edge, felt the weight. It wasn't heavy from pages, it was heavy with assumption. I'll think on it, I said. Mercedes exhaled. Good. That's good. Just let us know. She turned to Raphael. See, that wasn't so bad. He didn't answer. They left the folder there. I didn't move for a long time. I stared at it. Then I slid it open. Page 1, transfer of property. Page 2, name removal. Page 3, new title formatting under the LLC. Their LLC, not mine. Not Ed's. Not Raphael's, really. Her father's name was on it. Her cousin's. Not a single Estes name on the ownership line. I read every line. Then I closed it. I placed it on the top shelf of the pantry behind the extra rice bags. Let it sit where things go stale. That night I made tea for them, though I never drank it myself. I brought the cups to the couch, handed hers gently. She smiled like nothing was wrong. He didn't. He couldn't. I sat across from them, folded my hands in my lap, and said, I'm leaning, yes. Mercedes beamed. Wonderful. But I'd like a lawyer to walk me through it. Just to be sure. Of course, she said, though her voice clipped at the edges. We can use my family's firm. They've already reviewed it. I'd rather use Ed's. For old times. She hesitated. We'll see. But time matters. We're submitting papers soon, I nodded. Time did matter. But not for the reason she thought. After they went to bed, I pulled the red folder from my drawer, cross-checked the deed one more time, made sure the seal was unbroken, slid it back in. Let them rush. Let them count the days. They thought they were building something permanent, but I'd already built the ending. The doorbell rang at 6:08 a.m. Not the gentle kind. Not the kind for neighbors dropping muffins. It rang sharp. Twice. I sat at the edge of my bed shoes, already on sweater zipped. I'd been waiting since 5:30. Footsteps thudded across the upstairs hall. Raphael's door creaked open, then closed again. He shuffled toward the stairs groggy. I heard the pause, the hesitation before he unlocked the deadbolt. The door opened. Silence. Then a voice. Firm, polite. Not asking. Raphael Estes. Yes, he said, confusion thick in his voice. You are no longer authorized to reside at this address. This home belongs solely to Nadine Estes. That has been verified by county records as of this morning. Raphael stammered something, a question. The tone went high. I stepped out of my room. Mercedes was at the top of the stairs, wrapped in a robe, clutching her phone like a shield. The two officers stood calmly at the threshold. No guns, no shouting, just presence. And in the center, wearing a slate gray suit and carrying a black leather folder, stood Mr. Carlyle. My lawyer. He adjusted his glasses. Mr. Estes, this isn't an eviction. This is a correction. You attempted to transfer a property you did not own. I didn't. Raphael started. You did, Mr. Carlyle said. You initiated a fraudulent LLC filing. You submitted documents without the legal owner's consent. You accessed a joint account without authorization. He opened the folder, showed a page. This is a notarized clause from your father's will. It states that any family member who causes public humiliation or financial harm to Mrs. Estes forfeits all inheritance. You fall under that clause. Raphael's jaw moved. No sound came out. Mercedes descended the stairs fast, whispering urgently, "You don't have to do this. This is a misunderstanding. We can settle this privately." Mr. Carlyle turned. "Ma'am, your family's name is on the LLC. That's a criminal matter. You may want your own counsel." One of the officers stepped forward. "You have 48 hours to vacate. After that, we will escort you out under county order." I walked down the hallway slowly. Didn't rush. Didn't speak. Just walked past Raphael, past Mercedes, past the front door, and stood in the living room. My living room. Her parents weren't there. They must have gone out early. Or perhaps they saw the cars and slipped out the back. Smart. I stood by the couch. The same one they bought and shoved mine into the garage. Mercedes turned to me, eyes wide. You told us you were thinking about it." "I was," I said. "You said you were leaning yes. I was leaning toward clarity," I said. She looked like she wanted to scream. I looked at Raphael. His mouth had finally closed. "You could have talked to us," he said. "I tried," I said. You kept finishing my sentences. Mr. Carlyle folded his folder shut. "We'll send the formal documents by noon. You're no longer on the insurance. No utilities, no titles, no access to funds. Everything has been returned to the rightful name." I nodded. The officer stepped back, leaving only the weight of silence. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I simply stood in my house. And somehow, it echoed louder than anything they'd ever said. Mercedes slammed the motel drawer shut. Plastic thudded against wood. Her phone hit the floor, bounced once, landed face down. "No one's answering," she yelled. "My parents won't pick up. Your uncle's number is dead. Everyone's vanished." Raphael didn't move. He sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing the same jeans from the day before. His hand gripped the folded banknotice so tight, it crinkled in his palm. "Funds frozen," he read again, voice low. "Just until they verify signatures," he added, trying to make it sound temporary. Mercedes whirled on him. "You said she was too tired to notice. You said she wouldn't fight back." "I didn't think she had it in her," he muttered. "She had lawyers, Raphael." He stared at the wall. She paced. One small, boxy motel room. 2 twin beds. A mini fridge that barely cooled. A lamp that flickered every time someone shifted. Outside, traffic rolled by like nothing had changed. Inside, the silence split everything open. They hadn't eaten since yesterday. The fast food bags were still on the dresser. Half full, now cold. Mercedes opened the fridge, stared at the bottled water. Shut it again. "No one's helping us," she muttered. "Your mother just sat there. Like she didn't even care what this did to us." "She cared," Raphael said quietly. "She just didn't argue." Mercedes grabbed her phone again, stared at the cracked screen. "You said the house was yours." "She never said it wasn't," he said. That hit harder than he meant it to. Mercedes sat on the other bed. Her hands shook as she dug through her purse. No cash. No credit. Both cards declined earlier at the pharmacy. "No one's going to rent to us with this crap on file." Raphael didn't answer. He pulled the bank notice open again. 3 lines stood out in bold. "Beneficiary name change, complete fraud investigation. Active access, suspended pending review." He closed it again. "What do we even do now?" Mercedes asked. Raphael ran a hand over his face. "I don't know." They both looked toward the corner of the room, where the silence pressed hardest. It wasn't just about the house, it was about what they'd assumed, the automatic way they'd taken chairs, control space. And now Raphael couldn't remember the last time he'd looked his mother in the eyes. She hadn't screamed. She hadn't cursed. She just let them dig their own hole. Mercedes stood again, opened the mini fridge, closed it. Again. There was nothing there. No leftovers, no stocked shelf, no familiar kitchen light, no coffee, no sound of footsteps on the floor above, no fridge hum that meant warmth was nearby, just an empty room and the quiet settling in. The inbox dinged. Raphael opened the email fast, like maybe something had finally gone their way. Subject: listing request. Denied from Martin Vale, Vale & Cole Real Estate. Mr. Estes, we've removed your listing request from our platform. Title verification indicates Ms. Nadine Feller holds sole ownership of the property in question. No cosigners or LLC claims are valid. Kindly direct any future correspondence through legal counsel. He stared at it, then read it again. Mercedes leaned over his shoulder. What does that mean, removed? He didn't answer. She grabbed the laptop, clicked back to the dashboard. Their account was empty. No listing, no photos, no record it was ever there. Another ding. Subject: fall tuition payment. Rejected from accounts office, Glendale College. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Easties, your scheduled tuition withdrawal was declined. The trust previously used is no longer active under your authorization. Please contact the financial office with updated payer information. Mercedes sank into the bed. That was due today, she whispered. We promised we'd cover it. Another ding. Subject: repossession notice. Final stage. From Western Auto Finance, Mr. Estes. We attempted to contact you regarding the 2021 SUV and 2022 crossover under your name. Your grace period has expired. Both vehicles have now been retrieved by our contracted partners. Raphael closed the laptop. It didn't help. The motel room felt smaller now, claustrophobic. The air stale and slow. Mercedes muttered something under her breath. Then louder. She's cutting everything off. She's reclaiming what's hers, Raphael said. Mercedes stared at him. You're taking her side, I'm just not pretending anymore. He stood, walked to the window, opened the curtain halfway. Parking lot. No SUV, no crossover. Just two faded sedans and a food truck prepping for the morning rush. He watched the steam rise from the fryer. Behind him, Mercedes paced again. Maybe we can call Len, she said. He helped your mom? Maybe he'll... No, why not? Because he knows exactly who she is now and who we are. The silence clamped down again. Mercedes picked up her phone, scrolled, tapped, blocked. No answers. Her cousin in Miami blocked. Her aunt in Fresno sent straight to voicemail. Raphael sat back down. Opened his wallet. $4. He placed the bills on the nightstand. Left it open. He wasn't expecting it to grow. He wasn't expecting anything anymore. Mercedes sat across from him. What do we do? He didn't have to think. Nothing. Her head jerked. What do you mean, nothing? I mean, we stopped scrambling. She's already moved. We're just catching up. Mercedes crossed her arms. You're giving up. I'm watching her win. It stung to say, but it was the truth. He could feel it in the weight of every unanswered email, in the silence of every line disconnected, in the hum of an empty phone that no longer rang. She wasn't loud. She wasn't cruel. She was just done. And somehow that was louder than anything they'd ever thrown at her. He leaned back against the headboard, closed his eyes, and listened. Nothing came. Raphael called again. Straight to voicemail. He didn't leave a message this time. The last 3 hadn't been returned. The 4th had been deleted before it finished sending. Mercedes typed with shaking fingers. Nadine, we didn't mean to hurt you. We got overwhelmed. Can we talk? Please. She watched the little delivered checkmark appear, then nothing. No dots. No typing. Just the flat silence of being ignored. She threw the phone onto the motel bed and stood. She's playing games. Raphael didn't look up. She's done, he said. Mercedes crossed her arms. She can't just shut us out. She already has. He opened the motel drawer, took out the last granola bar, split it without asking. Mercedes stared at her half. You think she'll come around? Raphael didn't answer. Elsewhere across town, Nadine stood in line at the grocery store, one hand on the cart, the other around a basket of apples. Elena, the cashier from 2 blocks over, raised her eyebrows. Nadine. She turned. Elena blinked. You okay? Nadine smiled. I'm just fine. She placed the apples on the counter. No fuss, no updates, no drama. Just apples, a loaf of bread, a carton of eggs. Simple. Paid in cash. She walked out slow, no rush. Bag tucked under her arm. Across the lot, she saw the same coffee shop where Raphael used to take his meetings. It was quieter now. Fewer cars. Different rhythm. She kept walking. Her keys clicked softly in her hand. The sound meant something now. Mercedes tried again that night. She rewrote the message, shorter this time. We're sorry. Just give us a chance. No reply. She opened Raphael's old Instagram, checked Nadine's profile. Nothing. Deleted. Raphael looked over. She's not even trying to talk to us. Would you? Mercedes didn't answer. She stood, paced the room. She's punishing us. No, Raphael said. She's done explaining. They sat in silence again. Outside, a truck passed. A dog barked once. Then nothing. Raphael leaned back, stared at the ceiling. You think she'll ever respond? No, Mercedes whispered. And deep down, she didn't want to hear the answer. I walked in before they opened. The receptionist unlocked the door and gave a small nod. She didn't ask questions. She knew who I was and why I was there. I climbed the steps slower than I used to, but I didn't stop. The office smelled like old paper and coffee. Real coffee, not the instant kind Mercedes stocked when she remembered I was still in the house. Mr. Halperin stood when I entered. Morning, Ms. Feller. Let's get it done, I said. He pulled out the final document and turned it toward me. Here it is. The donation clause is solid. Tax exempt fully in your name. No one can reverse it. I read every word, then I signed. It was the last piece. Half of Ed's remaining estate, after the trust, after the home, after the safe deposit box, would fund scholarships, specifically for women over 40, who'd left abusive homes, who'd rebuilt their lives from scratch, who'd been told they were too old to start again. I looked up at Mr. Halperin. Use it for women who've been silenced. He nodded, folded the document neatly, and slipped it into the secure envelope. I reached into my tote, pulled out the red folder, placed it on the table. You're leaving it here, he asked. Yes, I said. It served its purpose. Inside was everything. Deeds, amendments, letters, timelines, copies of every document Mercedes once tried to control. But it didn't belong in my nightstand anymore. I didn't need the weight of proof in my hands. I had peace now. Mr. Halperin didn't open it. He just slid it across the table and into the locked drawer behind him. I stood. Do you need a ride home? He asked. I shook my head. I'm not going home yet. He didn't press. I walked back down the steps and out onto the sidewalk. The sun had come up while I was inside. I zipped my coat, tucked the tote under my arm, walked. 1 block. Then another. No one knew where I was. No one was waiting for me. No one expected anything. And for the first time in months, that didn't feel lonely. It felt clean. I passed the corner where Raphael used to buy snacks as a boy, the gas station where Ed filled the truck every Friday, the old thrift store where I once found the red folder's first binder dusty and forgotten in the back. I paused outside the diner, smelled bacon, heard laughter from the back booth, didn't go in. I just kept walking, back straight, hands steady, no folder, no fear, just me. I pushed the door open. The quiet hit first. No voices, no footsteps, no locked fridge, no chair pulled from under me. Just morning light on the floor and the smell of brewed coffee. I poured a cup. Steady hands. Full mug. Stepped out onto the porch and sat. The chair creaked the same way it always had. Wind brushed against the trees. The kind of breeze that made you pause without knowing why. I pulled the blanket over my lap. Took a sip. The mug was new. Heavy. Plain white except for 2 words. Still mine. They had taken up space in every corner for months, voices louder than their right to be. They had rewritten stories, moved walls, tried to cut out the person who built the bones of this house. But now, their cars were gone. Their plans collapsed. Their names erased from every file they had tried to forge. The deed sat in the drawer inside, under my birth certificate, above Ed's will. I didn't need to look at it. I knew what it said. I knew who it named. Birds picked at the feeder I'd refilled yesterday. A dog barked down the street. Len's truck rolled past. He waved. I raised my coffee back at him. That was enough. The quiet didn't feel like absence. It felt earned. No rage. No more explaining. No one left to please. Just me. Still here. Still steady. Still mine.